her, I'm going to be hearing about her story today. But although I'm not a mother yet, I just wanted to share um, I guess my first lesson of a complex birth story, is my mother's own story of her pregnancy with me and um, my birth almost 33 years ago in December. My mother was a new immigrant from Jamaica, and she had an incredibly difficult pregnancy. She was sick the entire time. And hearing about her struggles of just navigating her pregnancy while navigating a new country, um, and just learning about how she overcame that struggle, having a premature child. I was born premature. I was born prematurely at 30 weeks. I was just over 3 pounds, and my father even said he didn't know that I would live. But I'm here today and thriving because of my mother, because of my father, and because of her strength. And what I take from her story is perseverance, but also lessons. Some of the things that she wished she knew as she was navigating this new experience of being a mother, being a new woman, being a woman, a newly living in a new country. And lessons that she wished she knew then that she's learned now about advocating for herself and not only medically, but just in general, and the ability to be more introspective also about what her needs were, especially at that vulnerable time in her life. So I'm now going to transition over to Lauren, who will talk to us about her birth story and the lessons that she learned and what she would like us to take away from her experience.
Well, before we transition, I want to transition back, retransition.
Mhm.
So what would you say would be the biggest lessons your mom learned? I know you talked about advocating for herself, but what are some of the things, so what are some of the other tidbits or advice or bon mots that she had told you about her experience?
I think preparation, she just didn't know how to prepare. She was new here, so she didn't know what to expect and she didn't know how to prepare. And I think that she wishes she not only took more time to prepare, but also knew that that was her right to,
Mm.
you know, to prepare to have the type of birthing experience that she wanted. Had she had known that she would be so sick, this is the type of care that I want. This is the type of resources that I want, not just from her doctors, but from her community. Um, and I think that she just wished that she had that foresight to prepare um, for all possible circumstances. And in terms of advocacy, I was in the hospital for 3 weeks afterwards. And
Mm.
I think advocating for, for me, but also for herself, just not even necessarily health wise, but how long could she stay with me? What do visiting hours look like? Things like that that she just didn't know how to ask and didn't feel brave enough to ask um, as she was just navigating this new experience. And I think now she's totally different. Like she is totally different.
She's
Um,
found her voice.
she's found her voice, and I think that that's what she's taken away from herself as she's moved forward in her life. And I think a big part of it started there for her.
I mean, I'm amazed you were only in the NICU for 3 weeks.
It
Yeah.
was the 90s. I don't know.
Get out. Wow,
Yeah.
that's so impressive, and on both ends, like you were telling her tale, and also, I mean, obviously you don't remember the experience, but you are learning
Yeah.
through her, um, and it's really inspirational. So thank you for sharing your story with us and your mom's story with us. She's an inspiration to us all. Um, so. My story, I was an older mom. I was almost 44, just shy of 44. Um, I pretty much hit all of the, what do they call them? Not problem areas, but high risk categories. I was older, I was a little overweight, I was pregnant with twins. So I had everything, and but my pregnancy was actually pretty uneventful. I didn't have a problem, and about week 30, when you have twins and you're older mom, or a combination of both, you have to go in every week. So week 36, I went in. I felt totally fine. I remember logging off. Telling my boss, hey, I have to go to my weekly appointment. I'll be back in like half an hour.
Mhm.
And I didn't come back for 6 months. I just disappeared. Um, and so I went and, did all the labs and things. And she was like, you need to go home, call your husband before you leave and tell him he needs to take you to the hospital. You need to go home, get your go bag, and go to the hospital because I had developed preeclampsia. That's what they think now. Which I had very high blood pressure and there was protein in my urine. So they're like, you have preeclampsia. So you need to go to the hospital.
Can I
But-
ask you, did you and your husband, or did you ever think of what your plan would be if you encountered any situations like that? Is that something that was part of your, I guess, your birth plan or your health plan?
No, that's the short answer. I think I am not sure I had a detailed birth plan because I knew I wanted to have, I mean, I guess I did have a birth plan. I knew I was going to give birth in a hospital by a doctor. I was going to have a C-section. And I was going to take as many painkillers as I can. I don't like pain. So that was pretty much my birth plan. But no, I was worried about preeclampsia, because I heard so much about it. But until that day, I didn't have any problems. My blood pressure was fine. Um, and I felt fine even as we were going to the hospital. And so no, I didn't, that was not part of the birth plan. I knew at 32 weeks I should have a go bag. I should have everything packed to go. So I was ready.
Mhm.
So I was ready for those kind of things. I wasn't really ready for a medical event. I think I was of the mind that I wouldn't be, there wasn't much I can do. If there was a medical event.
Mhm.
I told my husband, I'm like, you are gonna have to be my main advocate, and
Mhm.
we'll get to that a little later. But
Yeah.
um, so we ended up going to the hospital, and he was like, something about men. They just throw three things in the bag. I live like 5 minutes away from the doctor, and he was ready. He's like, I got my bag. I'm ready to go. So we went to the hospital, and we waited because she had like call in, do whatever they do. And the last thing I remember before waking up from my coma was walking into the pre-birth room.
Mhm.
And I remember setting my bag down, and I don't remember anything else before waking up on life support. I was
Wow.
intubated, on a ventilator. I was strapped down. That wasn't cool. So I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was October 1st, which I now call my Renaissance Day. It
Mhm.
was October 1st, and someone had left the TV on the Sci-Fi Network. And so it was October 1st, so it was all the Halloween things. And I woke
Mhm.
up to Chucky from
Oh my gosh.
Child's Play, and I was strapped down. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, and I had a lot of
You're by
tears.
yourself in the room when you woke
Yes,
up? Oh.
yeah, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning
Mm.
when I woke up. And all the nurses came rushing in telling me to calm down. Calm
That
down,
never
calm
makes
down.
anyone calm down.
No, and especially when they're strapped down, they can't speak because they've been intubated. And I'm like, what's going on? And
Yeah.
no one told me what what was going on. They just kept yelling at me to calm down, and then they knocked me out again. For I guess a couple hours. I don't know how long it was. I
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
remember waking up and it was bright out again. Um, and so then I was actually in the KICU, cardiac ICU, because the regular ICU was full of COVID patients. And
Oh.
then the KICU got full of COVID patients, and I was
Mhm.
the outlier by the time I left to go back to post-birth. Um, and during that time, I was incredibly, one of the things I was going to ask you was about your mom's
Mhm.
community because my friends rallied around me and advocated for me like no one's business. My doctor, and I was very fortunate that my doctors did too.
Mhm.
And but my one particular friend, Heather, she was on it. She worked in that particular hospital system, not in that hospital, but in the hospital system. So she knew who to talk to.
Yeah.
And she did, and she made sure that the
Okay.
boys and I were taken care of.
Mhm.
And but one of the things that bothered me pretty early on is that I felt like because my brain and body were mismatched. So my body was well aware that I had been in a coma for a little over a week or so. And but my brain wasn't. My brain was still back and like I'm walking into the room like there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought I could walk. I could not walk. I had to relearn how to walk. I had to relearn how to properly breathe. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently, things got all. I had lots of surgery, so that messed a lot of things up, other than just a C-section. Um, so I, but so my brain wasn't in my usual advocate for myself. So I'm pretty good at advocating for myself.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't know what was going on, so I kind of tamped it down. It was kind of like a little bit like you said with your mom, but it was more, I was just kind of confused about what was going on. My boys weren't with me, they were in the NICU.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't want to make a fuss. And because I didn't want to make a fuss, I heard a nurse actually tell, when they switch shifts, I heard a nurse tell another nurse, oh, she has a high pain tolerance and, she's
Mhm.
really chill. So if she rings her bell, you can take your time getting to her. It's fine. She won't make a
Um,
big deal out of it.
oh, that's
And I remember being so mad about that. And but I still didn't, yeah, that's like a little what?
yeah.
But it was so diminishing and demeaning for my experience. I'm like, I'm in the ICU and I literally just got
Yeah.
out of a coma 10 hours ago, maybe. You just took the tube out of my throat 6 hours ago, if that. Actually, it was less than that. But yeah, so it was horrifying because I had heard the tales
Yeah.
and about black maternity and I it was one of the that's actually really what I was afraid of. And my husband is white, and I was like drilling it into his head. I'm like, so this happened to Serena Williams. If it could happen to
Yeah.
her, and she has the best medical care in the world, it could happen to little old me. And so I was like drilling it in his mind. Um,
Going
so
back,
that's I'll stop there and yeah.
I have questions. So going back to the nurse, was she ever confronted? Does she know that you heard her say that? Did anything
Uh,
happen?
so I remember her name was Felicia. It was like bye Felicia, and like literally bye. It was the day for her vacation.
Oh,
And I know this because when they were taking me down my big old hospital bed to see the twins, HR yelled out, "Felicia, your vacation was approved." I'm like, this is the most unprofessional stuff. Like as I was rolling down the
yeah.
stairs, but
Mhm.
no, she did not know um, because when she was switching off. So her shift was ending, and then she was on vacation for 2 months. Um, so yeah, she didn't know. I did complain about it, but I don't know if she ever found out about
Okay. Mm. You mentioned that you had multiple surgeries following this experience. What, if you are comfortable sharing, what did that entail and
it.
what was
Yeah, they
the recovery
were.
process like?
Well, my problem is they think they're just attributing it now to eclampsia. I was actually fine. The C-section went fine. I was fine. The babies, they were born at like 10 o'clock at night. I was fine until like 2, 3 o'clock the next afternoon. And then all of a sudden, I just started having seizures. My blood pressure went up, and I had a massive amount of internal bleeding. And they could not figure out where the bleeding was coming from. I went through 10 units of blood. And so it was just a lot of exploratory surgeries of trying to figure out where this bleeding was coming from because they just couldn't stop the bleeding.
Mm,
So yeah, they were mostly exploratory surgeries that I can't pronounce. I have it on my phone for when I go to the doctors.
mm.
But at some point they got it where the bleeding was, they got it to stop, and but then they're like, you're going to be in a lot of pain, so we're going to put her in a, I was in a medically induced coma.
And how long was the coma? 1 week?
Yeah, I was a little over a week.
A little over a week. So coming out of that, what was the recovery process like after? You mentioned learning to walk and learning to breathe.
It was um humiliating, to be honest with you.
Mm,
Like even thinking about it, I'm like tearing up because I'm so used to being the strong one. I'm so used to being the one that other people can depend on, and taking charge and being problem focused, and um all of that. And so this was a situation where like my friend, like they had to my friends fed me because I didn't couldn't feed myself. I was like sticking myself in the cheek, and they had to help me walk. I had to have, yeah, I am tearing up. Two nurses walk me to the bathroom. That was when once I got to the point where I could be helped to the bathroom, because otherwise I was just had to use like they had like a portable one because they did want me up and moving. But like my friends had to wipe my bottom, and it was I have incredible friends.
Yeah,
um,
but you have an amazing community.
yes, yes, and I would say, and I knew they were good friends. Some of them were friends since seventh grade. Heather was friends in seventh grade, so we've been through a lot. But that just really iterated to me how strong my community is and who's there.
Yeah.
And then people found out later, and it's interesting to see like once they found out people's reaction. But community is so important. And it doesn't have to be can be the family you choose, but
Hmm.
you choose them for a reason. They're
Yeah.
chosen for a reason. So
Yeah. No, the community is definitely important. I mentioned in my mom's story, she had just migrated here. So her community wasn't that large. It was my father and, the couple family members that were living here at the time. But one story that she tells is I was premature, so she didn't even, and she was sick, so she just wasn't thinking about a baby shower or anything like that. And when she was able to be discharged and go home, a family friend bought a whole bunch of baby clothes over for me because she hadn't even bought any baby clothes, and because she was that sick. And I just think that's such a poignant example of community because I think sometimes, even though you have people around you, it's hard to be vulnerable and
yes.
say the things that you need. And so when you have people around you who can see that you need something and fill a void, that's the strength of community is not always having to say, please do this, even though we have to always we have to be vulnerable and speak, which can be hard for us as women, especially like yourself. You're used to being the leader and being the one taking charge. But community is invaluable.
One of the things I would advise women to do, or people who give birth, is to, or anyone like you're adopting, or any, if you have a child, new child, is people will ask you, if you need anything, just let me know. And you're in the state, I mean, what happened to me, my story is extreme, but One thing I wish I had done was make a list of specific things that people could help me with.
Mm,
Um, And when you read all the books, they're like, some of like take the baby for a little bit while you take a shower. But there were specific things that would have been really helpful. Like I need food. And I
yeah.
looked on TikTok and there was those women who have, I had casseroles for 30 years. Um, but in my case, it was like I needed specific things to be done. And I wish that I had made a list of things that, if nothing else, I can just give to people and say, hey, here are some specific things. I need some, don't just tell me, let me know, because then
Mhm.
I don't want to be weak. I don't want to bother you. I don't want to, and all that stuff. So that would probably be my top three things.
But also, when you're going through something like this, on top of the transition of being a mom, it's hard to be introspective in that way also.
Yeah. No,
And
this was before. I wish I
oh,
had done it
before, done this
before I gave
before.
birth.
Mhm.
Yeah, in preparation, because regardless of if it was just a normal birth,
Right.
I
You
would
still
still
need the
be,
help with
yeah,
twin boys. Yeah.
yes,
Yes. Yeah.
yes. So that's one of my biggest takeaways.
Mm. You said something, um, you called October 1st your Renaissance Day.
Mhm.
What's the meaning behind that?
Renaissance literally means reborn,
Hmm.
rebirth in French, um, which is my second language. I don't have a third. Uh, Oh, I was just looking. Oh, thank you. Marie had a version of asking for things. So
Yes.
I call it my Renaissance Day because that was the day I woke up out of the coma. And for me, that was a restart. That was a rebirth. And for it was, first, well, boys were born September 24th. Um, but it I had to learn so many things from the beginning. Like I said, walking, which, you don't think about. I'm like, no wonder babies have such a hard time. It's hard
Yeah.
when to like relearn to walk, and you're like, I used to be able to do this and um, feed myself since I had the tube down my throat. It took about 2 months for me to be able to really comfortably eat solid foods again.
Mm,
And then I didn't really have the hand-eye coordination for a while to reliably get food into my mouth. So it was really like starting over again.
mm,
Like it was literally a rebirth. I think a lot of times people think it means like I rethought my life. I came near death and it changed how I thought about life. And I wasn't there yet.
mm,
I
mhm,
was literally just trying to do the basics. And so it was really starting over. It was, that's why I call it my Renaissance, is when I woke up and it was on the other side. Literally on the other side, they were telling my family I was not going to make it.
wow.
Um, they're like, there's no reason you should have survived this. We did not think you were going to make it. Being hospital famous is not something I think anyone should aspire to. It's not no fun at all. And
Mm,
that was the other thing I would say. I don't know how many practitioners we have in our audience. For me, because I was such an anomaly and I had gone through so much and like I said, I was hospital famous. People, and it was a teaching hospital, and I knew that. And I grew up right now I'm in Richmond, Virginia. I grew up in Charlottesville, Virginia, where UVA is. So I'm used to like teaching hospitals. So I wasn't surprised when people stop by. In my mind, a teaching hospital is like a doctor and then medical students
yeah.
or insurance, whatever. And so when that didn't actually really happen that much, maybe it's because I was in ICU, I don't know, maybe once or twice. But what really got me and what really sunk my soul was when individuals would just come by to look at me like I
Mm,
was a zoo
yeah.
animal
No.
because they wanted to see the person who survived all of this. And I know that's why, because they would tell me why. They had nothing to do with my care. but they were just like, I
Oh,
just
they
wanted
weren't
to meet.
clinicians. They weren't.
They
They
were clinicians, but they weren't my clinicians.
got you.
But they had read about my file. They had
Mm.
read my file, and so they wanted to meet and see this person who actually survived all this. And my actual, I mean, they have like electronic fi files, but my actual binder was literally like this thick of tons of paper. And and clinicians are people who actually, like doctors, people who work in to treat
Mhm.
people who treat patients in this case. Um, oh, I forgot the question. Oh, yes. So I remember, like, what was I talking about? So, and I remember there was one nurse named Mary. This was after I got transferred out of the ICU. And because I needed two nurses to help
Mhm.
me get to the bathroom, she was the second nurse that was called. And she actually said to me, like I said, other people have said it, but they're less, oh my gosh, like meeting a celebrity. She's like, "You're famous." She's like, "I read about your file." Like she's like, "We've all read it." She's like, "It's such an honor to be able to like to actually treat you and take care of you." And I mean, I guess in some way, maybe it was some people would take that as a compliment, but I'd
I
already
can see how
been,
it's jarring, especially when
yeah,
you're trying to figure out what happened still at that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And just having people come in and just look at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the empathy. Yeah.
So that was really hard to take. That was probably the hardest thing for me to take outside of m- consciously, the hardest thing for me to take because obviously what I went through when I
Yeah.
was unconscious was much
Yeah.
more life-threatening.
We do have a question from Veronica Lopez Erickson. She asks, she says, Miss Lauren, thank you for sharing your story. Can you speak to what support or preparation is needed for the partners in the birthing room? What is needed for more inclusive labor and delivery rooms for fathers and partners? And how can we be better at preparing them for advocacy during birth?
So, basically how to prepare the fathers or the other partners.
Yes.
I would say,
And what did you do? And you touched on it briefly with me.
oh yeah, for me, because my husband he wasn't up to date on black maternity rates and risk factors. I drilled it into him. I'm like, and these are historically things that like pain, but it wasn't until very recently that people were taught in medical school, doctors were taught in medical school that Black women do not inherently have higher pain tolerance. I was taught for centuries.
Yeah,
Black women were used for gynecological experiments. And so there's a long history of Black women being failed by the medical, used and failed um, by the medical field. But so what I would tell them to do, they could help prepare that list, or give them the list
Mhm.
that Marie put up, so they can take things off your plate. Like, I mean, I guess the real answer is I don't know
Mhm.
how to better prepare them. There are books, like there are books for men, or for women. I think they should know that they have a voice.
Mhm.
I think a lot of times
Absolutely.
people, both men and women, shrink away and think, well, they're the doctors, they're the nurses,
Yeah,
they know best. And that may be true, but you still have a voice. You
yeah,
still can say, I don't care. She needs more pain medicine. She's still in pain. Or, don't have so many people come by and look at her for
yeah,
she's not a zoo animal, to be protective, be honest with you, because there are few times in a woman's life where she's more vulnerable than after giving birth.
right.
So, and she's going to be spending probably the rest of her life taking care of others if she doesn't already have kids. So let this be a time where she's taken care of so she can rebuild
Absolutely.
her strength and be able to um, take care of others, which is what she's going to end up doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Marie's on it. She has some great tips in the chat.
In the chat. We also welcome, please feel free to submit questions for the Q&A. Um, the other thing that I wanted to ask you was about seeing your sons for the first time. What was that
Mhm.
like?
Yeah, actually, for this year's picture, I think I might use it for most years. It was the picture of when I first met them, and my oldest, baby A, he has his hand like, oh gosh. Um, One thing that one of the nurses told me, and this was after I met them, but um, they had their little pictures. I looking over there because they have like the pictures because they're like, oh, it's inspirational. And I didn't want to look at them. I didn't want to look at their pictures because I was afraid I was going to lose them because I didn't know. They were perfectly fine. They were just like in the baby spa, basically. And but like they were way healthier than I was.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to look at them because I thought I was going to lose them. They were born early. I thought what happened to me affected them. I didn't realize that they were already like taken away and healthy in NICU by the time I, spazzed out. But so seeing them, there was a detachment because I didn't have, or I don't remember my birth. So I don't have that connection. I don't remember that first skin to skin. If I don't know if I had, I don't think I did. I think they took them away. So I didn't have that connection to them. And I felt bad because you are always hearing about you'll never know love like love when you look in their baby's eyes. And I was like, okay, these are two little human beings I'm taking care of. And one of the nurses, I had some great nurses too. They weren't all like Felicia, but we remember her. She's great. We have lots of Felicia stories. Um, and she,
Unfortunately.
yeah, and so one of the nurses, she told me, she's like, it's not unusual if you don't feel connected to them.
Yeah.
That'll come. She was like, especially after what you went through. She's like, so don't feel bad if you don't
Hmm.
feel that connection right away. And it was true. It took like a couple of weeks, but
Hmm.
then it kicked in. And I was like, oh, this is what people are talking about. I feel
Hmm.
like a mother now, not just a caretaker. Uh,
Hmm.
sort of.
Yeah. It's it seems Piers the nurse was right about that being common because we have in the chat, Kamaya says that she understands this completely, so it's not an unusual experience. Marie asks if you were able to nurse.
No, and I wasn't planning on nursing, but by the time I actually was awake, I wasn't able to nurse. There was nothing there, and I was full of drugs,
Mm,
so I wouldn't have been able to nurse even if that had been my plan.
mm. All right, another question. Deani Williams asks, did you have a post-pregnancy plan in place? If so, how did it change after your medical challenges?
I did. It was my husband. He had 2 weeks. It's such a travesty that in this country that we don't have most allow limited, maybe most don't. We don't have paid maternity leave, and their paternity leave is either non-existent or very short. My husband only got 2 weeks, and so the plan had been that basically I'd be able to um, not relax, but be able to get my strength back up, especially since I was going to have a C-section, and
Hmm.
so that was going to be more difficult. Um, so the 2 weeks basically he would take over as much of the child care as so I can regain my strength. And it changed because I didn't get home till basically as soon as I got home, he had to go back to work. Fortunately, he worked from home. He works from home. Well, actually, he retires tomorrow. but
Wow.
um, he worked from home, so he was able to help, but it changed because that support wasn't there because he had to go back to work. And soon after, I called my mom. I'm like, I can't do this by myself. So my mom came down from Charlottesville. Now I'm blessed that she lives with us now. But eventually she was able to come down to help me with the baby. So it changed completely because I physically couldn't take care of them. Forget emotionally and mentally. Yeah, I still had those hormones going through my body.
Mhm. Mhm. In our last just about 5 minutes, Lauren, well, first, thank you for, sharing your incredible story and your insight and answering these questions. But I guess, do you have any final insights or like final lessons that you would like us all to take away from your story?
Be kind to, yeah, I mean, it's such a simple thing because, be kind to everyone, particularly in this situation, because you don't know what they're going through. Like
Mhm.
I put on a very brave face and I was just
Yeah.
completely, I mean, I went through postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. I didn't even know postpartum
Mm.
anxiety was a thing, but
Wow.
it obviously is. It was like severe. I had to go on short-term disability just to deal with those things. But I put on a brave face but I was like crying every day. So particularly in this situation, and you should just be kind to people anyway. There's a difference between being nice and being kind. Um, be kind to people, be gentle with them. If you want to be helpful, be specifically helpful.
Hmm.
Um, if you can't cook or you don't know what they want, just send them DoorDash.
Yeah.
That was a lifesaver for me. So I think those are the biggest takeaways. Just be kind. And if you're the person giving birth, give yourself so much grace. Give yourself as much grace, if not more, than you would give someone else
Mm.
who just
Be
gave
kind to
birth.
yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. You're not going to bounce back right away in any way, shape, or form. And that's okay.
Yeah.
No one should expect you to.
Yeah. And your boys are 4?
Four, they did turn 4 in September.
Yeah. How are they doing?
They're in bed, so they're doing great. My favorite time of the night of the day.
Yeah. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing better. I'm doing much better. I mean, it's been 4 years. I mean, to be honest with you, it really did take about 2 years for me to kind of physically and emotionally and mentally get back to my baseline. Um, just because it was such a traumatic birth experience. Um, but thank you for asking.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so yeah, I'm doing well. They're doing great. They are very brotherly, meaning they fight over everything. Toys, chips, they don't care.
That's so funny.
Hugs.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so funny.
They're adorable, if I do say so myself. And I do.
Yes. I've seen pictures. They are adorable.
Yeah. And sometimes they interrupt like my calls, but no, they're asleep.
Mm. Well, oh, I do have one more question. In our last 3 minutes, Lauren, do you ever or have you ever considered writing a book about your journey?
I am, yes, is a short answer. I am in the middle of writing another book, unrelated, about hidden Black history of Charlottesville in the Albemarle County area.
Mhm.
Um, but it's something I am considering, and I wrote in my journal about like the days immediately after because I didn't want to forget the experience.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's definitely something that I plan on in the future writing more about and writing about what it's like to be an advocate for my boys who
Yeah.
have some neurodivergency. So yeah, yeah, I'll let you guys know.
Please, we for both books.
Yes.
Yes. And Wanda Brown Kern says that your story is something that needs to be shared, and I think we all definitely agree.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so in our last 2 minutes, in addition to or to add on to Lauren's takeaways that she shared, I guess I would also, emphasize the importance of kindness, being kind to ourselves as women overall, but especially when going through, you know, this transition of becoming mothers, being kind to ourselves during that time. Um, Compassion, empathy, and resilience. I think your story is one of resilience. Um, and my mom's story is one of resilience as well. And I think that resilience isn't always about being strong all the time and composed all the time. It's showing up and putting one foot in front of the other every day, no matter what, no matter how hard it is. And that's what your story represents. That's what I learned from my mom. And I'm sure those watching take away that lesson from hearing you speak today.
Someone real quick, someone asked how should we define kind versus nice in this
Oh,
context? I would say there's empathy and compassion behind kindness.
yeah.
Um, Niceness is saying, "Oh, I hope you feel better. Let me know if there's anything I can do." Whoop doo doo doo, and
And
like
never seeing you again.
yeah, and you might see them again, but like you don't really actually intend to put action behind your
Yeah.
words. Um, Kindness is having that empathy and compassion behind your words, and preferably action also behind your words.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Well, thank you. Thanks everyone for watching. It's 8:15. It's been an amazing discussion. I've enjoyed hearing your story, Lauren. I've enjoyed having this discussion.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Oh, uh, will there be a replacement? There should be. Yes, there will be. Thank you, Marie. Um, but and thank you to Birth the Magic for even pulling this event together, inviting the both of us to speak and have this amazing discussion in front of all of you.
Yes. And yes, thank everybody for joining us today. I'm finally being at the point where I can actually talk about it without like bursting out in tears. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate the support, the very supportive, even though it's virtual, virtually supportive um, audience that we had here. So thank you.
All right, have a good evening, everyone.